Right now, somewhere in America, someone is sitting in their home with no running water and absolutely no plan. Maybe it's a hurricane, maybe a pipe burst and took out the whole neighborhood system. Maybe the grid just gave out after a bad storm. And in that moment, the one thing keeping you alive, clean drinking water, is completely gone. Not harder to get, gone. And if you think that can't happen to you, I want you to think about the 2021 Texas winter storm, where over 12 million people lost access to safe running water almost overnight. Or Hurricane Katrina. Or any one of the dozens of natural disasters that have ripped through communities across this country in just the last few years. The truth is, most Americans are completely unprepared for a water emergency. And here's the wild part. The solution doesn't cost a single dollar. You can build it in under 15 minutes, and it could literally save your life. My name doesn't matter. What matters is what I'm about to show you. Because today, we're talking about how to build a fully functional DIY water filtration system using nothing but stuff you already have sitting around your house. No money. No tools. No degree in engineering required. Just a little knowledge, and that's exactly what this channel is here to give you. So if you've never thought about what you would actually drink if your tap ran dry tomorrow, stick around. Because by the end of this video, you'll have a real proven answer to that question. And if this kind of practical, no-fluff survival and economics knowledge is what you're into, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. We've got a whole community of people on this channel who believe in being prepared, being smart, and never getting caught off guard. Hit subscribe. It's free, and it might be the most useful thing you do today. All right, let's get into it. First, let's talk about why this actually matters. And I'm not trying to scare you, I'm trying to give you real information. According to the World Health Organization's latest water and sanitation strategy, released ahead of their 2026 targets, unsafe water, poor sanitation, and hygiene-related issues still drive at least 1.4 million preventable deaths every single year around the world. 1.4 million. And as of their most recent reporting, 2.1 billion people globally, that's 1 in 4 people on the planet, still lack access to safely managed drinking water. Now, you might be sitting here in the United States thinking, okay, that's a developing world problem. And to some extent, you're right. But here's the part that should make you pause. A 2025 National Water Quality Survey found that 87% of Americans are already concerned about the quality of their tap water. Not people in remote villages, Americans, people with running water. And that same research found that 94% of tested U.S. tap water samples contained microplastics. So we're not talking about some far-off crisis. We're talking about a real present vulnerability in the system that most of us depend on every single day without a second thought. And all it takes is one hurricane, one infrastructure failure, one contamination event, and that vulnerability becomes a genuine life or death situation. That's why this matters. Not because I want you to panic, but because knowledge is protection. And what I'm about to walk you through is knowledge that has been used by survival experts, off-grid communities, and disaster relief workers for decades. So let's talk about water. Real, actual water science, but in plain English, so it actually sticks. When water becomes unsafe to drink, there are generally a few different types of threats inside it. The first is physical, that's the visible stuff. Dirt, sediment, rust, debris. The stuff that makes water look brown or murky. The second is chemical heavy metals like lead, pesticides, industrial runoff, volatile organic compounds. The third is biological bacteria, viruses, parasites, things you can't see, but that can put you in a hospital bed or worse. Now, the DIY water filter we're going to build today, the layered, gravity-fed, $0 version works by attacking the first two categories very effectively, and it makes a meaningful dent in the third. It is not a sterile lab system. But researchers have found that a properly built multi-layer biofilter using materials like sand, gravel, and charcoal can remove up to 98% of visible turbidity and sediment. That's not a number I pulled out of thin air. A 2020 study evaluating improvised charcoal filters on contaminated river water found turbidity removal efficiency of up to 98% after repeated filtration runs. And a December 2024 study published in the Laurus Journal specifically examining household-level activated charcoal filtration, found a reduction of 77.68% in total dissolved solids from the filtered water samples, with a 55.71% reduction in biological oxygen demand, meaning significantly less organic contamination making it through. And for the biological side, boiling after filtering is your final weapon, and we'll get to that. But first, let's build the filter. Here's what you need. A plastic bottle, a 2-liter soda bottle, an old water jug, or literally any clean container you can cut or drill a hole in the bottom of. If you have two, even better, one stacked on top of the other works perfectly. You also need clean cloth or cotton and old t-shirt, coffee filters, even a bandana. You need gravel or small rocks, you can grab these from outside. You need coarse sand again, outdoors, river sand, or play sand from a sandbox works. And you need charcoal. This is the one you're going to want to pay the most attention to because charcoal is the backbone of this entire system. Now, ideally, you want activated charcoal. Activated charcoal has been processed at extremely high temperatures in the presence of gas, which creates millions of tiny pores in the carbon and gives it a massive surface area. Scientists actually describe it this way: 4 grams of activated carbon has a surface area roughly equivalent to an entire football field. That's how much surface area there is for contaminants to bond to and get trapped. When water flows through it, chemicals, heavy metals, foul odors, chlorine, and organic compounds literally stick to the surface of the charcoal through a process called adsorption. According to research reviewed by the NSF and EPA, activated carbon filtration is capable of removing between 60 and 80 different chemicals from water and can significantly reduce an additional 22 to 30 compounds. But here's the thing. If you're in an emergency and you don't have store-bought activated charcoal, you can make your own. Burn hardwood oak, hickory, maple until it's fully black and no longer flaming. Let it cool completely. Then crush it into small pieces, roughly the size of gravel, and rinse it thoroughly before using. It's not as porous as industrial activated charcoal, but it still works meaningfully well for a field emergency filter. People have been using wood charcoal to purify water for literally thousands of years. Ancient Egyptians used it. Japanese artisans still use a version of it today with Binchatan charcoal sticks. This is not new science. We're just bringing it into your garage. Now, let's build this thing step by step, layer by layer. Take your plastic bottle and remove the cap. Flip it upside down so the neck is at the bottom. This is where filtered water will drip out. If you're using the cap, poke a few small holes in it. If you have 2 bottles, cut the bottom off the top bottle and set it over the neck of the bottom bottle, which becomes your collection container. The first layer going in from the bottom up is cloth. Fold a piece of cotton cloth, a t-shirt, a sock, a coffee filter, and push it gently into the neck of the bottle. This layer does 2 jobs. It prevents your filtration materials from falling through, and it catches the very finest particles at the end of the filtration process. The next layer is charcoal. Add about 2 to 3 inches of your charcoal crushed into pea-sized pieces. This is your chemical and odor removal layer, the workhorse of the whole system. Don't skip this. Don't reduce it. More is better here. Above the charcoal, add another thin layer of cloth or cotton to separate the charcoal from the next material. This keeps your layers clean and prevents them from mixing. Now add your fine sand, about 3 inches of it. Sand is your primary mechanical filter. It physically traps smaller particles that made it past the gravel. River sand or fine-grained outdoor sand works well. If you have time, you can rinse the sand first to remove dust, which will keep your output water cleaner. Above the sand, add another thin cloth separator. Now add your gravel or small rocks again, about 2 to 3 inches. This is your first line of defense at the top of the filter. It catches the biggest debris, chunks of sediment, leaves, and visible contaminants, before they even reach the more critical layers below. Top it off with 1 more layer of cloth. This is your pre-filter. It keeps the really coarse stuff from immediately clogging your gravel layer. Your filter is built. Now you pour your murky, questionable water slowly through the top, and you collect the output from the bottom. Don't rush it. Let gravity do the work. The slower the water moves through the layers, the more contact time it has with the charcoal and sand, and the better the filtration. Run the water through 2 or 3 times for best results. Now, and this is critical, this filter does not make water safe to drink on its own. It does not reliably kill biological pathogens like bacteria and viruses. What it does is remove the sediment, debris, and a significant portion of chemical contamination, and it makes the water physically cleaner and clearer. That matters a lot because clear water is much easier to disinfect. Here's what you do after filtering. You boil it. The CDC is very clear on this, bringing water to a rolling boil for at least 1 minute or 3 minutes at elevations above 6,500 feet will kill the vast majority of dangerous pathogens, including Giardia, Cryptosporidium, E. coli, and cholera-causing bacteria. If you can't boil, bleach unscented household bleach with 6 to 8.25% sodium hypochlorite can be used at a rate of about 8 drops per gallon of clear water or 16 drops per gallon if the water is still slightly cloudy. Let it sit for 30 minutes before drinking. The combination of filtration plus boiling gives you a genuinely effective field emergency purification system. Not perfect, not a replacement for municipal water treatment, but something that could keep you alive and out of a hospital when the system breaks down. Let's talk for a second about why the layering order matters, because a lot of people get this wrong and wonder why their filter isn't working. The logic is simple. You always want your coarsest filtration at the top and your finest filtration at the bottom. The gravel catches the big stuff so it doesn't clog the sand. The sand catches medium particles so they don't overwhelm the charcoal. The charcoal focuses its massive surface area on the chemical and fine particle work. And the cloth at the bottom is the final polish before the water exits. If you flip that order, if you put charcoal at the top and gravel at the bottom, you'll clog your charcoal within minutes, and the whole system stops working. The order isn't optional, it's engineering. Now let's talk about upgrading your filter, because if you have even a few extra minutes or a few extra materials, there are meaningful improvements you can make. If you have access to a second bottle, using a two-stage system doubles your contact time with the filtration media and dramatically improves output quality. You basically run the water through one filter, collect it, then run it through a second identical filter. Studies on multi-pass filtration consistently show improved contaminant removal over a single pass. If you have access to clay, you can pack a layer of clay at the bottom of a pot or container and use it as an additional filtration medium. Research published in September 2025 in a major scientific review on ceramic water filtration found that low-cost clay and ceramic filters achieve turbidity and bacterial solid removal efficiency of approximately 95 to 99%. If you have the time and materials, a clay pot filter combined with charcoal and sand layers is genuinely one of the most effective DIY systems known. If you have a clean sock, use it as an outer pre-filter sleeve around the input end of your bottle to catch large debris before it even enters the filter layers. This extends the life of your internal layers significantly. And here's something most people don't think about. Your filter needs maintenance. After 20 to 30 uses, or when you notice the flow rate slowing significantly, it's time to replace or rinse the materials. Pull out the sand and gravel, rinse them clean, and replace the charcoal with fresh material. The charcoal loses effectiveness over time because its surface bonding sites get saturated with the contaminants it's captured. Once those sites are full, water flows through without getting cleaned. This is exactly why commercial activated carbon filters have replacement schedules, same principle. And let's zoom out for a second, because I want to make sure you understand the real-world context of why this skill is more relevant right now than at almost any point in recent American history. The United States has approximately 151,000 public water systems. The EPA reported that around 95% of public water systems meet health standards under normal operating conditions. But normal operating conditions is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. Natural disasters, extreme weather events, infrastructure aging, and contamination events like the lead crisis in Flint, Michigan have all demonstrated repeatedly that the system can fail. And when it fails, it often fails fast and without much warning. Research from 2025 found that aging water infrastructure, combined with increasingly frequent climate-driven flooding events, is compounding water safety challenges in ways that stress the existing systems. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, recommends that every American household store at least 1 gallon of water per person per day and maintain a minimum 3-day supply. In a serious disaster, FEMA actually recommends a 2-week supply. Most American households have neither. And even if you do have a 2-week supply stored, knowing how to filter and purify additional water from natural sources means your survival window extends indefinitely rather than ending when your stockpile runs out. This is the intersection of basic economics and survival thinking, and it's exactly what this channel lives in. The cost of knowing this information is zero. The cost of not knowing it in the wrong situation could be everything. Let me also address something you might be wondering. If this is so simple and effective, why don't more people know about it? Honestly, it's not that mysterious. We live in a world of convenience. Turn the tap, get water. Push a button, filter it, order a filter online. We've engineered the need to think about this completely out of our daily lives, and that's mostly great. But it creates a dangerous blind spot when the infrastructure that makes convenience possible suddenly isn't there anymore. The knowledge didn't disappear, it just stopped being necessary, until it is. There's also a global dimension here that I think is worth understanding. Waterborne diseases cause roughly 1.4 million deaths per year globally, according to the WHO's 2026 strategy document. UNICEF reported that between January 2024 and March 2025 alone, more than 178,000 cholera cases were recorded across 16 countries in Eastern and Southern Africa, largely linked to inadequate water access and hygiene infrastructure worsened by climate-driven flooding. Every single one of those people was drinking water contaminated by something that a properly built filter, followed by boiling, could have significantly addressed. That's not abstract. That's people. And the gap between them and you isn't intelligence or will it's access to information and materials. If you're watching this in a comfortable home, you already have everything you need to build this filter sitting in your house right now. The gravel is outside. The charcoal might be in your grill. The sand might be in a kid's sandbox. The cloth is in your closet. The bottle is in your recycling bin. The only thing that was missing was this video, and now it's not. Let's talk about a few practical tips before we wrap up. If you're gathering water from a natural source, a stream, river, or pond, always try to collect water from a moving source rather than a stagnant one. Moving water naturally oxygenates and carries fewer anaerobic bacteria. Collect from the middle of the flow, not the edges, where sediment and runoff collect. Avoid water downstream of farming or industrial areas if you can. And always filter before you boil sediment, and particles can actually insulate pathogens during boiling and allow them to survive. When you're storing your filtered boiled water, use clean containers with tight lids, glass or food-grade plastic. Never use containers that previously held chemicals, even if you've rinsed them. Label your containers with the date so you know how fresh the water is. Properly filtered and boiled water stored in a clean, sealed container can remain safe to drink for several days, though replacing or retreating it every 24 to 48 hours is best practice if you're not sure about the storage conditions. One more thing that's worth knowing: if you're in an emergency and you have access to sunlight but not fire, you can use a method called SODIS, solar water disinfection. It's endorsed by the WHO and has been used in disaster relief operations for years. Fill a clear plastic bottle with filtered water and leave it in direct sunlight for a minimum of 6 hours or 2 days if it's cloudy. UV radiation from the sun will kill or inactivate most biological pathogens in the water. It works best on clear water after filtering, which is yet another reason why your DIY filter is the critical first step, no matter what disinfection method you're using. If you want to take this a step further, learn to make charcoal. Seriously, it's one of the most underrated primitive skills. You can make a simple retort, basically a sealed metal container with a small hole in it, fill it with hardwood, heat it over fire, and produce a solid batch of wood charcoal in about an hour. Then you have a long-lasting renewable filter material that doesn't require you to run to a store or order online. That knowledge doesn't expire. It doesn't need a battery, and it doesn't cost you anything. All right, let's land this plane. Here's what we covered today. You now understand why clean water access is genuinely fragile, even in the United States. You know that unsafe water is still responsible for over 1.4 million deaths per year globally, and that 87% of Americans already have concerns about their own tap water quality. You understand what makes water unsafe: physical sediment, chemical contamination, and biological pathogens, and which of those threats your DIY filter addresses. You know how to build a layered, gravity-fed water filter using a plastic bottle, cloth, gravel, sand, and charcoal. You know why the order of layers matters and what each one does. You know how to make your own charcoal in an emergency. You know that filtering must be followed by boiling or chemical disinfection for the water to be genuinely safe. And you know about SODIS as a backup disinfection method if fire isn't available. That is a real, actionable, scientifically grounded survival skill that costs you nothing, takes less than 15 minutes to build, and could be the difference between surviving a water emergency and not surviving it. I don't say that for drama. I say it because the data backs it up completely. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where you lost access to safe water? A storm, a disaster, a camping trip gone sideways? Drop your story in the comments below. I genuinely read them. And if you have any questions about the filtration process, the materials, anything we covered today, ask in the comments. That's what the section is for, and I'll answer what I can. And if you found this valuable, if this is the kind of practical, no-nonsense information that you want more of, please share this video. Not because I need the numbers, but because this is the kind of knowledge that genuinely benefits the people around you. Share it with your family. Share it with your friends who live in flood zones or hurricane country or anywhere that infrastructure doesn't feel totally reliable. Because the more people who know this, the more people who are safe when the tap stops running. Subscribe to Boring Economics Update if you haven't already. Because I promise you, the topics we cover here are anything but boring when the moment comes that you actually need them. We talk about real information, real numbers, and real skills, the kind that don't make headlines until suddenly they're the only thing that matters. Stay sharp, stay prepared. And we'll see you in the next one.